I can't tell if it's started.
I think it might have.
Okay, yeah, it has.
Oh, are we live?
I think we are. Hello.
Hello.
I'm back from some sort of very long hiatus.
It's been a little while.
I mean, I'm not back. This is just a chill live. Hello. How's it going? Welcome to a belated episode 4 of Semi-Literate. And we are talking today about reading slumps. And I thought that, well, the topic was actually supposed to be something else, but it was supposed to be about self-care. And I do not think that I'm currently in the mindset, or I don't have the facilities for that currently to speak about it. But we decided to go for something else that was also on the list of things that you guys suggested for us to talk about, which is reading slumps. And I think it comes at perfect time because I have not read pretty much in like over a month now. And Jade is reading at the speed that she's breathing. So she's just devouring books.
I'm currently reading at a pace that I've never touched before. Like, I've never even knew
a new high.
I've reached God tier.
You didn't know it was possible. So I just thought it was a really good dynamic for us to do this, because I don't know if we'll ever have this particular situation, you know? But how is everyone? How many people are currently in a reading slump, and how many people are just carrying on? Hello.
I feel like the current situation that we're in.
Oh,
there's
that.
Oh,
I'm trying to share a thing, but it doesn't. Yeah. Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah.
Miss you too. Sorry it took us a while to get back. Okay, there's loads of people in the slumps now.
Quite a few. I was just going to say, I think the situation we're in at the minute with the whole pandemic thing, it's either gone one way or the other, I think, for a lot of people. Like, having all this spare downtime at home is either meaning people are in, like, total slumps, or people have gone my route and gone, like, I have so much time to read now.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem to be, like, the medium ground anymore.
Yeah, I think, as you said, like, it's either whichever end of the extreme. I think it depends on how you read. Although I don't think this is in your case, but I know loads of people, when they get stressed, they will read to escape. And then there's people like me who can only read if they're okay. Like in my
no, I'm very much like that. Like, if I'm not reading, that is like the first sign that I'm not okay. Like, if I go like a couple of weeks without reading a book, like that's like not normal.
Yeah, exactly. So it's in my 28 years of existence, I have not been able once to read when I'm like stressed. If I'm like just a bit stressed, then sure. But if it's like a big old thing, then I'm just physically unable to, and that is why I haven't read for, I don't know, actually I didn't keep track, but probably over a month now, with like a tiny break of listening to a 2-hour-long audiobook. Something along those lines. Yeah, everyone is feeling a little bit down with the reading.
Except me.
Except you, and that's why it's so great to have you, because like, teach us. Teach us. Well, just before we actually start, because we got a lot of questions from you guys, so also thank you so much for asking. If you have anything you want to say or ask, obviously let us know in the comments. We'll try to look at what people are saying as well. But before that, I want to say that obviously reading is a hobby for majority of us, I would assume. And we also just kind of live in a society where it's just like, go, 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 go. And then like, you cannot have any downtime. You cannot have any like, you know, if you stop something, if you're unable to do something, then that's like on you, and that's bad. But imagine if this was watching movies and you don't feel like watching movies, and then you're like Googling, oh my God, how to get past not wanting to watch a movie. Like, you wouldn't do that. And reading should be the same. So this is definitely not us saying that, oh, if you have a reading slump, then you have to work to get past that because, like, girl, you're going to get behind your reviews or something. Like, no, if you can't read, if you go stressing about not reading, then that's just going to add on top of that. But I get it. Also, it is stressful, especially if you're creating content, and then like if you're not reading, then there's no content. So I understand, but I would just like want to clarify that it's not.
There are different like sorts of slumps, aren't there? There is the sort of slump where your mind is down otherwise, therefore you can't focus on reading slumps. And then there's the sort of slump where you want to read but you can't read, but you want to, and like you'll start 6 or 7 books but you just can't get yourself in the swing. And then there's the sort of slumps where you're just not even thinking about it. So like there's different ones, and I think the solution to each of them is very different.
Yeah, exactly. So I think
for example, the one you were just discussing, like the stress, and if reading is putting that stress on you, the solution to that sort of slump is almost like to not solve it. Like, don't stress yourself out more.
If you already like, but at the same time, like obviously I get it, because when you do read, it's nice. I assume it would like to read if we're trying to read. So it is frustrating when you feel like kind of a medium day. If you read, then that would be type of self-care, especially if you have kids or anything else that you have to have like full attention on, or you have a very stressful job, and then reading is your downtime. And then now all of a sudden, if you're really stressed out and you cannot escape, you read and use like reading as an escape tool, then suddenly you're just like short of a way of implementing self-care into your life. So I understand that trying to not get over, but work through the issue of like being able to focus on reading could be beneficial. But I'm just saying, obviously, if not reading and the fact that you're failing at trying to read is stressing you even more, then it's better to just maybe try and implement other types of self-care, which we can also maybe cover later on, just like a tiny bit. Obviously, this is not what the video is about, but if you can't read and you try things and it's just stressing you out because you feel like you just keep failing because you just keep trying, as Jade said, it's probably best to just let it simmer and let it, go through the whole period of whatever you need for yourself to find yourself in the mood to read again. But as Jade said, also there's definitely like different types of slumming. So this could actually be a good natural segue how we find ourselves into a slump, because that one I think was also a question asked. So obviously it could be external things, like we're in a global pandemic, there's other things that are happening, and it's all just a lot to handle mentally. There's just like, it's just a lot. 2020 is a lot in general, or it could be your health issues or something else like that. And obviously that is something that can affect your ability to read. But then there's stuff like, oh, I've just read an amazing book and nothing else compares, and now I cannot read anymore.
I've been ruined for all other books.
Yeah, exactly. Or alternatively, I've just read 2 shit books and I now have,
because they're all going to be pants from here on out.
Yeah, or just like I had like maybe 10 bad or like books, and now I'm just like, I don't remember how it feels to be excited about a book anymore because they all suck. What else is there?
I think the lack of focus one is another one, like almost being too excited about too many books and therefore starting 6 of them at once and then being like, but I don't know what to do. I have all this pent up energy and I just can't expel it on this book.
Yeah, exactly. Or also having a high and reading like an amazing amount for yourself, like not something that you usually do.
Yeah, I think that's one that I get a fair bit. Like I'll have a really good week where I'll read like 5 books, and then the next week I'll read like 100 pages.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like a burnout. I feel like you
Yeah.
had that energy of reading for 2 months and you spent it in one, and now the second one is just like I got nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, book hangovers is what you basically call it after like after a good book. Wonder what it's called when it's just a bunch of bad books though. Because I feel like I get that more because I don't remember the last time I read a book that was just like, mind blowing.
Yeah.
I had a streak of kind of like meh and not so great books since like 2019. So, and at some point then obviously there were some books in between, but I think that's when I kind of started this like slow slump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Book burnout exists or a reading slump is the same as a burnout? Not sure.
I was told them the same thing.
I would say that the way that I understand it, I think is kind of the same. Basically, a reading slump to me is just if you're struggling to read, and same as burnout, if you just don't have the energy or the focus. Yeah, I think maybe is the lack of something is different. So the reading slump is maybe the motivation. Of burnout could be just like, oh, I really want to, but I don't have the energy anymore. But I think it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, I would say a burnout is just a variant on a slump.
Yeah.
Like a book hangover.
Category.
A variant of a slump. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. After readathons, I've seen a lot of people have that after hours or news when we used to do them. And that was just like a thing.
Especially as well after a 24-hour readathon like that I've now started doing, like I'll read 3 books in 24 hours, then like the Sunday and the Monday I'm just like, don't even touch a book.
Oh, interesting. Find that if a sequel doesn't live up to my expectation, like it can trigger some sort of a book hangover for me. Suppose there's a level of expectation as well. If you have an expectation set and then you feel like really let down, then that would be doing that too. Yeah. So there's basically loads of ways to get into reading slump, which is good news. Actually kind of begs the question, would you rather go through the high or like do those readathons or 24-hour readathons knowing that you are prone to reading slumps and not knowing how long those reading slumps will last? Or do you think like nice and steady is better? Do you enjoy the high enough to suffer through the slump even because you're probably gonna get it? Or would you rather just maybe not do it and have a steady pace?
I think I would rather experience the highs and then experience the lows, because I think even if you just steadied it out, like the overall number at the end of it would still be the same. It would just be a more regular pace. But like the high of the highs, I think it's worth it. Like coming out of a readathon and being like, I read 12 books, look at me go. Or as I did last month, I read 20 books, look at me go.
Look at you go. That is fucking crazy.
Yeah. But then look at me in March. In March, I read 2.
Yeah, that's still more than me. I don't even know what month was my last wrap up. I don't know what is reading. Literally, not semi-literate. I'm just illiterate.
I bring the literate. You are illiterate. We're still semi.
Yeah. But no, I agree. Maybe not exactly for the number for me, but just like the experience, because usually the readathon is a very communal experience, and that is what I really like. So the high for me is usually for like obviously like doing the prompts and having some sort of guidance with the prompts and a bit of more of an extra challenge than just reading for the mood reads, which is also a good thing, obviously, but it's just more exciting, And I think it's worth it. I don't know if I'm not very prone to burnouts. I just cannot read if my mental health is not well. That's my demon to fight basically with the reading. I don't really get a lot of kind of burnouts. But then maybe
I definitely relate. Like if the mental health is not there, then I also can't do it, because this goes into totally different territory, really. But like, if my mental health's down, I don't want to do anything. Whether that's a movie or read a book, I just don't want to do anything.
Exactly. Some days it's like straight up a struggle to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Without exaggeration. Like, it is a struggle, and I think a lot of people can relate, even if they don't have mental health issues. There are just days where you're really down, and it's hard to do things. But if you do have a mental health disorder, it just means that obviously that is something that is chronic and is affecting your life, and in a way that is restricting what you would normally do. And reading, I think, is a big part of that for a lot of people in this community, and is just what it is. And obviously there's also people who read for escapism, so they might still be able to utilize that even if their mental health is plummeting, which is amazing, and I envy that a lot. Because I just can, like, my mental capacity is just not there to like actually read it.
I think the sort of escapism I get from reading is not escapism from when things are low and down and stuff. It's like escapism from the mundane and the boring. So at the minute, I'm reading a lot for escapism because I have nothing else to do with my time. I'm not working. Like, my normal daily schedule is gone, so I need something to escape from the, do you want me to sit here and stare at a wall all day or what?
Yeah, it's like there's obviously different kinds of escapism. I feel like your type is just like, let's go on an adventure.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not to run and escape from your reality. It's more to run towards something.
Yeah.
This is a good question. Do you feel as booktubers you get the chance to mood read? Does this contribute to your reading slumps?
Now that I do TBR pursue, mood reading is definitely not as much as it was before, unless I can somehow manage to read all 6 of them really quickly, which I did manage last month, so mood reading was kind of okay. But no, I feel like in order to mood read, you really do have to chisel out the time for it if you've got that set TBR that you need to achieve. But at the same time, I love TBR
capitals. I'm assuming this is about the TBR games.
But at the same time with the TBR game, because I also love a readathon, because I love a challenge and I love the like being able to fit things to prompts and then saying I did it. I like the accomplishment of it, so I don't think it puts me in slumps. It just challenges me further. But I do wish I had more time for mood reading.
Yeah. And I think that is, I don't know if you guys know this, but I never participate in other read-alongs or readathons. And that is because I am a massive mood reader. And the most I can handle is my readathons, because that I still kind of leave some space to have some mood swaps. But for the majority of the time, that is the most I can handle with the structured reading schedule. Although I do think that people like change, and I think my reading taste, taste obviously too, but what do you even call it? Preference? Sometimes I just like, I cannot even look at things if they're just pre-scheduled or like whatever. Like I have a list and I need to read, and I just like will not want to pick up any of that, and sometimes I'm completely fine with it and my mood doesn't.
I think sometimes the setting of a TBR like that, it puts obligation on it, and then it's like, well, if I have to do it, I don't want to. Even though at one point you made the point
you just tell me what to do. I know I'm you, but still.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no help for us at all. Yeah.
Cody feels attacked.
Huh?
Cody just commented, I feel attacked.
Oh, this is also just a very important fact that nachos are being making in the making. Okay, so I think we could just go without even looking at the questions yet, but if you find yourself in a reading slump, but at the point where you're kind of ready to try and like end it and get out of the reading slump, what is the first thing that you will try?
It depends what sort of slump. But I will either go for something to kick my morale up, so a graphic novel or a comic or something, so that I can complete a whole thing really quickly and be like, I can do this. I know how to finish a book. I've done this before. See, I just did it. And like trick myself into feeling more accomplished because I can finish a whole book in a day, sort of thing. Or I will do an audiobook along with physically reading, so that like if my mind wanders from what's on the page, I'm still intaking it, and then I can like bring myself back and be like, no, I did read that. I did. Yep.
Do you find that you can always match? Because the thing is, I found that I cannot do audiobook with the physical book at the same time. I will often swap between them, but I can't do it at the same time because I can never freaking match the speed with my own.
I've learned that if the narrator's right, it has to be the right narrator that I can listen to comfortably at double pace, because double pace on an audiobook is the same pace as me reading in my head. So if the narrator is one that I can comfortably listen to at double pace, then I'll do that and read at the same time.
I mean, I know that people listen to stuff at double pace. Like, I can only do that if the narrator, like the normal speed was super slow. But normally that's such a mush that the words flow together. And
that's
like,
what I mean about the narrator has to be just right for that one. For example, I listened to The Girl Who Drank the Moon and read that physically as well over the weekend. And the pacing of that narrator, like double speed, was just right for me to read along at the same time. And it didn't just the sound like that.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
For me, the first step is similar to you, either like a short comic book or something. The thing is that I just want to get excited about the story. Usually if I'm slumping overall. So I just want to get excited about the story. So the first thing that I will consider is actually a TV show or a movie, because I just want to get involved somewhere and then just get excited about the story, be excited by the plot, and just get my brain kind of working again in that kind of aspect. Then the next thing I would try is a audiobook. And then the next thing that I would try is a comic. And then I could try a book, or I think someone else said here as well. I don't know where it was now, but it was basically like trying to reread a favorite as well.
That's a common one, I think, rereading something that you know will spark your love for reading again.
Yeah. There it is. That's a good one. Find a new readathon to take part in. For sure. Or a buddy read, if that works for people. I'm terrible at them, but I can see that being motivating, because that's another part of some type of obligation for like, fan fiction. Could be. A thriller audiobook. Oh, that reminds me. On the things that I would also try is I would go for something that is not my go-to genre. So my go-to genres I consider to be fantasy and sci-fi. So if I'm in a reading slump, and especially if it's because I had like a long array of books that just didn't really excite me and I forgot how to be excited, I will also try and get to a thriller, just because they're supposed to thrill you by default. So it's usually something that I'm also just less used to, even if it's not a thriller, like let's say a romance, not that I've ever done that in my life. If it was something that's completely novel, and if you've not read a lot in that genre, then I think that your brain is just more excited, because you won't know the normal tropes that happen there. You won't know the common twists that other people might be able to predict, because you just not had that experience. At least I haven't. So I just find that there's more opportunities to be excited about stuff if you don't know it like inside and out, kind of thing. And that might help, just get excited. So I think my biggest advice is just to look for ways to get excited about it again.
Yeah. I think for me, it's quite different. Like if I I'm in a slump. It's not the excitement, because I'm normally like still really excited about doing things. It's just the like lack of sense of accomplishment. So that's why for me it's a short comic to remind myself that I can finish things, or a middle grade or something that I know I can get through in a day or two, to remind me that I am physically able to finish a book, and like just kick up that motivation to finish something.
Yeah, that just shows you how like individual it is to people, and like completely different.
I mean, that's the whole reason I read The Girl Who Drank the Moon over the weekend. Is all week all I had done is read like 100 pages of this, and I was thinking like I need something to remind me that like I can read quicker than this. So I read that in 2 days and was like, great, I'll go back to that now because I know how to read.
That's what middle grades I feel like are great for, because it's definitely obviously faster than an adult fantasy.
Oh yeah.
And I always say that I'm like a slow reader, but maybe I just read slow books. Like, it could be a little bit of both.
Maybe you should read a middle grade.
Yeah, but we're talking about this. I just haven't had any luck so far. Maybe one day. And wait, I have lost it again. The chat jet.
Take a shot. At one point, we will do one of these where we actually take a shot when that happens.
Yeah, one day. Not today. All right, so
I scrolled back up through the chat, and I don't know how to pronounce the username. Sulapo said, with Animal Crossing being released, you also didn't read. Was that a slump, or what would you call that? Being distracted. I wouldn't call that a slump, because I didn't want to read and I wasn't fussed by it. All I wanted to do was play Animal Crossing. So it wasn't a slump, it was an active choice.
Yeah. I feel like I missed on that entirely, like the only Animal Crossing stage. What a shame.
It was great.
The thing that I do struggle the most, though, in the slump that I am now, like current type of slump, which is like not the burnout or anything else, is that whenever I do try to read, I just cannot hold attention, like at all. And obviously, when you can't do that, you just can't do that. But when it lessens at some point, the thing that also helps are apps like Forest, which is obviously, if you are really prone to checking your phone every couple of sentences when you find your mind wandering. And obviously you can still check your phone, but you gotta kill a tree. So you will be surprised how much you don't want to kill that tree, even if it's imaginary. So
it's a fake tree, but like, damn, does it look sad when it's dead?
Yeah. So if you don't know, although I think a lot of people know, but Forest app is just, you set it up so that you pick however long you want to be, not interrupted by your phone. And if you set it for an hour, for example, then thank you.
You can change the tree.
You can change the tree, and you have
a little bush.
Forest.
Some bamboo.
Then you set it up, and you basically are kind of not allowed to leave the app. Uh-oh, I think I lost you. So you messed with the stream anyway. Hopefully she'll be back. But yeah, the app then kills your tree if you leave it, and is incredibly sad, and no one wants to do that. And every time you like pick up your phone because you forgot you said it, it obviously reminds you. And hello, welcome back.
Sorry.
And so it's a great little app to use. It's free. It actually does help plant trees as an added bonus. And it's just like a great little tool that you can use if the phone is your main enemy at that point. And usually the case is that as long as you manage to stay in the book without distractions for, I'd say, maybe around 20 minutes, you'll get into it more, and you're more likely to then read without any interruptions, as opposed to if it's like, on like 5-minute break every 3 minutes.
I just saw Gavin's comment. Didn't think I'd see Jade's bush on a live.
Oh my god. Well, they made. For the specific books, do you have any?
Not really. I'm not big on rereading a specific book in order to bring me out of a slump, because, as I say, for me, it's the sense of achievement. And if I'm rereading a favorite, like, I don't feel the sense of achievement that I would if I can like add a new book to my read shelf. So for me, it's more the size of it. So, as I've already said, a comic, graphic novel, or a short middle grade. But some that I've read that I would recommend to others, not necessarily for me, would be something like The Girl Who Drank the Moon, which I read yesterday, which was really quick.
It's not that short though, is it?
380 pages, so it's not short, but it's quick. It's fast-paced. It's like you could read it in a day, I think. I didn't because I had stuff to do, but yeah, it's a nice, quick one. Something else that I think is really fast-paced, I mean, a lot of people probably already read them, but the Percy Jackson books are really quick to get through.
Not me.
Yeah, or just middle grades. They're just so fast. And like, if you're like me and need that like quick completion sense of achievement thing, then it works.
Yeah, I'd say comics, honestly. I love Descender, so that's the one I would maybe recommend. Or even like a graphic novel, or like easy, something easy, like what's the uni one that you like? The
Giant Days.
Giant Days could be a good thing.
They are really good, actually. I have used those when I've been in those like slumpy moods, because there's like so little content to them. It's just a slice of life. These girls going through uni, like
it's very easy to digest. It doesn't require you learning a new world or anything. That's why I think maybe contemporaries could also help.
Which is weird because I don't like contemporaries, but that graphic novel series does it for me.
Because like Dragon Phoenix said, I found reading high fantasy really difficult recently. So I think it's literally, finding maybe a subgenre that you don't normally gravitate, or maybe you do, and seeing how that works instead. Because, I mean, high fantasies are always brainy work, like no matter what the writing style is, because you by default have a whole new world to learn, and usually there's loads of terms and loads of like different magic systems and court politics and history to learn. It's just a lot to learn. So going for something that doesn't require you using your brain as much, as bad as that sounds, could be really good. And I actually might see if I can just read, because I think I read Giant Days like volume 1 at some point, so I might just see if I can read the second one at some point.
They're all on script, literally all of them.
That's even better. Although I don't have it anymore, so.
Well, if anyone in the chat wants to read Giant Days, they're all on script.
Yeah. So, although they're all on there, maybe I'll just subscribe for another month and then read all of them. Yeah, so that could be a way to go.
I feel like I'm missing out on that particular trick a lot myself, because I don't like contemporary. I don't read very many contemporaries, but I see so many people say, like, when they're getting out of a slump, those quick, fluffy contemporaries really help. Probably for the same reason that I enjoy the middle grades, is that they're quick and you get through them at a rapid pace.
Yeah, gaining some momentum after like a massive pause, basically.
Yeah.
I will say that, obviously, I'm saying that audiobooks could really help, because you can multitask on a task that doesn't, you can still listen to something.
Yeah.
But again, it probably depends on a slump, because the moment that I'm now, it just stresses me out, because I feel like I don't process it, and then I feel mad at myself that how can I not even listen, and then it just goes like.
I definitely think you should try the Giant Days comics, because like if you don't process it, you've not missed out on much.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think I would be fine with that. I'm talking about like audiobooks are sometimes for me, if I'm slumping with a lot of like attention deficit, then it's harder for me to listen to audiobooks than to actually try and read like a comic or something.
Yeah, I think sometimes with an audiobook, if you're not reading along with it like I do sometimes, like your mind can wander and you can have listened to 20 minutes of the audiobook but then realize you weren't actually paying any attention to it at all.
Oh, literally what Akio just Ali just said, overwhelm me in a slump. That's the word that I was looking for.
Perhaps an audiobook, as I said, I'm not one for rereading when I'm in a slump, but perhaps an audiobook of a book you've already read.
Yeah.
So if you then do miss out on 20 minutes, you can fill in the blanks because you already know it, and then like it kicks you back into the momentum.
Exactly. I do that with the only book that I ever reread, which is obviously Harry Potter, which we don't agree with the author. I feel like I have to say that now forever. But that's an audiobook that I would put on because I know that even if I zone out, I will be able to pick it up wherever I left off. I have to go back. Okay, shall we go into the questions?
Yes. Yes, we should.
Hopefully find it. So these are going to be the Instagram ones, or we can just flip-flop between us, actually.
I think you will have got a lot more than I did on Twitter.
I think that we probably already covered quite a lot.
A lot of them, yeah.
But we can see if there's anything else. So one of them is, I can listen to Audible, but actual physical reading is practically impossible. Any suggestions? So like you said, maybe trying both at the same time. Reading the audiobook narrator could maybe lead into you just pausing it and continuing as is.
Yeah, I think it is a good way to get back into reading something physically. Because, I mean, even if you're still not totally in the mood for the physical book, you can close it and you'll still be consuming the story audibly. But then you can always pick it back up and it will just, as weird as it sounds, get you back into the feeling of holding a book and turning the pages.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that it doesn't feel quite so foreign to sit down and hold a book.
Trick your mind into reading. I do
it's all tricking yourself.
Yeah, I do realize that's quite a luxury, obviously. Like maybe there's not an audiobook available, or I would definitely say if you're doing both, then, maybe get the ebook from a library or Scribd or something that you wouldn't have to obviously pay for both audio and the physical, because that is a lot. But
I do only ever audio and physically read books that are audibly available on Scribd.
Yeah.
I'm not using an Audible credit on a book I already have.
Yeah. Or obviously, I know that I think especially in America, there's great systems for like Libby, I think they're called. I don't know. I'm not in America, but like a library system where you can get the ebooks and audiobooks. So obviously, maybe see which one has both and then try this method, because obviously if it doesn't work, then that would be a waste as well, but
yeah,
that could be a way. Do you got anything from Twitter?
Yeah. What mistake have you made that's brought you even further into a slump? So if you're trying to get out of it, what have you ever done anything that has had the complete opposite effect?
I think just push myself too hard, or make like with every day, not so much now, but a few years back, because of YouTube, obviously, you feel that kind of like almost like a ticking bomb of like, oh, and then people, obviously they mean really well, but they're like, if they ask like, oh, why have you not uploaded like in a while? And I'm like, well, and then obviously that can add a little bit of stress of every day you haven't read, and like every day you're like, oh, I'm gonna read today, and then you don't, and then you feel worse about it and worse, and you can see how this kind of spirals. So I suppose just putting extra pressure to yourself when there doesn't need to be any, can lead into you not wanting to read even more because you just now have this weird relationship where you're just like, well, screw it then. If I cannot do it, then I won't do it. Or like you just start kind of resenting the idea that you need to read or something.
Yeah, I think that putting extra pressure on it is never gonna help. Like if you're trying actively to get out of it, then great. But like if you put too much pressure and it's just not working,
yeah,
it's just gonna make it worse. Sometimes things do just have to run their course.
Yeah. Agreed. Other than that, I suppose it doesn't help when the first book after like a long slump is just not something you're enjoying. And it's hard to tell because sometimes you're like, well, maybe I'm just slumping. But on the other hand, maybe this is the book. And it's like,
yeah.
So I think when you are slumping, if something is really not giving you the want and need of reading, then maybe it's a good idea to DNF that particular one and go for something else instead. I think there's thunder. I love thunder. Oh, it might just be plain.
It's really hot here.
It's hard to tell. It might just be plain.
Do you have another question?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, just reading. There's a lot of stuff that we already.
I couldn't tell if I had frozen again or if you just hadn't moved.
No, I'm just like, because obviously there's a lot of that we have already answered. Yep. Is there one book that will always get you out of a reading slump? I don't think for us, but if you guys have any, then let us know in the comments.
Yeah, as I've said, I'm not one for really rereading a favorite to help.
Yeah, someone was saying, I'm reading The Wicked King and I love the series so much, but I can't pick it up. Why? That would be the reading slump, because it can completely not make sense, because
yeah,
I am currently reading something that is supposedly gonna be my next favorite book ever, according to sources. But it's hard to get into because I just feel like an overall, you know, like,
yeah.
Even my camera gave up. It's like, it's hard, and that's why it sucks so much, because usually it is about something like, oh, I've been excited for all of these books that I borrowed from the library or like got like recently, and I'm just like, I don't understand why I can't enjoy it. And I think in that case it is like, I probably wouldn't push it too hard because you don't want to ruin
the book. Yeah, take a break from that particular book. Maybe read something smaller.
It's less meaningful.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't mind the slump kind of like tainting it with like kind of meh emotions rather than a series that you know and love, because
so that you can then kick yourself back into reading. Like if you didn't love them books because of your slump, then as you say, you're not thirst, but it will get you back to the series you love. What about Spellslinger? Do you reread that series? When I say I don't reread favorites, I mean I don't reread favorites to help me get out of a slump. I do reread favorites. Like I've reread A Darker Shade of Magic many times. I'm currently in the middle of rereading the Spellslinger series. I just don't use it as a mechanism to get out of a slump, but I do reread my favorite books.
Yeah. Gotcha. What do you think that's a good book for people to get out of a slump?
What, Spellslinger?
Yeah.
No, too much politics, too much to learn. It's quite a lot, I think.
Yeah.
I would recommend.
The writing is not hard, so it could be okay, but
the writing's not hard, although Sebastian de Castell's writing is very hit or miss, so I don't know if I would recommend it like
yeah, that's true.
As a blanket solution, because a lot of people don't like his writing style. I really do, but there is definitely a lot of politics in that series, so maybe not.
Yeah. What is the longest and shortest reading slump you've ever been in? Oops, sorry, didn't mean to.
I was in one, when was it? It was a couple of years ago. I took a break from YouTube as well, and I had months, literally months, where I didn't read, I didn't upload, I didn't do anything. And for me, that was a like low mental health period where I didn't want to do anything. And that lasted a few months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think similarly, there was a period when this was the first time in like 4 years that I was actually pausing the uploads. If you remember, there was this like 3-week period, but most of the ever, this was the first ever time that I had to actually take like sick leave for 3 weeks from work. So it was just like a pause and everything, but I was just going through like doctor's appointment to doctor's appointment and just having breakdowns left and right because we did not know what's up with me, like with my health and stuff. And it was scary and I just couldn't handle it. And that was when and obviously, like, needless to say, I wasn't reading anything. And it was kind of funny because that's when like Logan's video came out. If you remember, like Logan filmed one because I couldn't film one. And I was like, but I still felt that need of like, I knew rationally again that I don't need to put out content, but I felt increasingly worse about not putting the content because obviously I feel like some type of responsibility, I suppose.
Yeah.
So that was the longest one, but I think that I am taking over that one now in a very different way. But I think this is my longest slump, I believe. And my shortest one, I mean, that's an interesting question. The shortest slump could just be like not in the mood to read on a day basis, but
yeah, I mean, what do you class as a slump? Because I know Pris isn't here anymore, but Pris always messages me and is like, I'm in such a reading slump. And I'm like, girl, 3 days ago you read a 400-page book. You're not in a slump. You're just not in the mood.
Yeah, that's true. Although, yeah, someone is saying this, and I will say, kind of same. I had a very long. The thing is, though, that I wasn't. When I started YouTube, I said that I was in like a 5-year-old slump, and then The Name of the Wind took me out of it. By which I don't mean that every day I was like, I wish I could read, but I don't feel like it because I wasn't thinking about it that much. I was simply just not reading because I was like reading loads of course materials for my like studies, and then for the lots of the years I only read like not Throne of Glass. God damn it, every single time. Game of Thrones. But I think it's different now because if I get a reading slump, because reading has become such a part of my life that if I get a reading slump now, I'm very aware of it. Whereas those 5 years, I just didn't realize that I slowly lost my passion for reading until I read The Name of the Wind, and I was like, oh my God, need to make a YouTube channel. You know, that was the whole like kind of push for it as well.
Yeah.
So I could technically also say that I had a really long one when I kind of forgot what reading meant to me until I remembered. So if that counts, then also like
I've definitely never had one of those. I like growing up was always into books throughout high school. Yeah, I didn't read at the pace that I read now, but even throughout high school, I was still reading like 1 or 2 books a month. Throughout college as well, maybe 1 book a month, but I was still reading. Just, you know, life also offered you so many more things to focus your attention on then as well.
Yeah. So I was reading as a child and a teen a lot, and then uni was the time that I didn't. Though that being said, like I did read a lot. I just read studies instead of like I wasn't reading for pleasure, let's say that. And to be honest, that's why I put this comment here. I think that's so normal. Like when I see booktubers who are also students, I'm like, hats off to you because I don't know how you do it all. I mean, it obviously depends on the course, but like when I was studying, it was just like, where do you get the time to do all of that extra reading? So it was like, so whenever people manage that, I'm very highly impressed because that is something, you know. I think I was just more of a person that like after all of the reading that I was doing and all of the like, you know, typing and whatnot, I was just like, I just want to watch some Netflix, like not read anything anymore.
Yeah.
So we have another question. Do you feel bad about not reading? I do, and I admit it's irrational. No one will judge me except myself.
I don't know if it may be different for us because we're content creators. Like,
yeah, I don't know, maybe this person is as well.
I don't know. I don't know who asked the question. But as a content creator and as a content creator who does weekly vlogs, I feel terrible if I'm going to upload a weekly reading vlog where I've read jack shit.
I mean, it has happened to both of us.
It has, yeah. And I upload the vlog and I call it, this isn't a reading vlog, really, is it? Come on now.
This isn't a reading vlog.
Yeah. I read nothing, weekly reading vlog. Yeah. We still do it because consistent uploading, and sometimes we have viewers that appreciate that. But yeah, I feel bad like if I read nothing and am expected to put out content where I read something. And I don't. And it's awful.
Yeah.
And for example, as Sulapo just commented, your Animal Crossing vlog, and I literally called it an Animal Crossing vlog because all I did was play Animal Crossing. And then some magazine wrote an article about me and said, or you procrastinate and play Animal Crossing. And I was like, do you want to call me out any louder?
What? I missed that entirely. Did you just not tell me? I wanted to.
I might have told you. I don't know.
I should have screenshotted that for like the last.
Some online magazine thing wrote an article about like booktubers to get through lockdown with, and like there were great booktubers, and then there was me, and it was like, oh, you can be like Jade Ray reads and not read and just play Animal Crossing. I was like,
I mean, I think it was well meant though. No, it was like
of course it was, but like
fair. What was it we were talking about?
Oh, do we feel bad? Yeah. Yes, I feel bad. I feel awful, and then get called out for it.
Oh, for me, it depends on the day. For the most days, I don't feel awful because I make myself listen to the rational part of the brain. But then I'm not gonna lie and sit here and be like, oh yeah, I don't care. Yeah, I do, especially because of the platform. And it depends how dire the situation is. Sometimes I don't have the mental space to even care about that. I'm more like concerned about, oh, I have not eaten anything since yesterday, or, you know, like that's kind of stuff. But like if it does get to me that I'm not reading. And the thing with YouTube is I don't think any of us think that, oh, like everyone will disappear. But the way that YouTube works is also, that is not far from the truth if you're not consistent. Or this has been shown since, like, with so many creators that take a break and then come back, and then it's just never the same as it was before. It's all with the algorithm. I'm not going to pretend that I understand it. I'm not too worried about that, but it's something that I know. Like, you know, when you know something and you're not particularly worried about it, but you're still aware of it, and it's still playing like in your brain, being like, well, this might be a thing. And I mean, that's okay if it is, but I wish that wasn't even in the brain to begin with. Like, I wish I just didn't know it. That would be better to me. So it's that kind of thing of like, but it's also just like sad. I think I'm more sad than angry or irritated than myself, because that's why I started the whole thing. I like to speak with people about the stuff that I'm reading, and I like to hear their thoughts, and I miss the interactions in the comments on the vlogs that I have not uploaded now for ages, you know? So it's more like a sense of, because in my type of world at the moment, at least, if I'm not reading and I'm not uploading, then that decreases my social interactions by a lot, especially in lockdown. And it's more of a sense of loneliness that it brings when I'm not reading. So it's that kind of sadness that comes with it, rather than me being angry at myself. So I suppose it's more of a sense of an isolation and kind of loneliness that I'm not reading, which is a really odd thing that I'm now saying out loud, but that makes sense.
I'm thinking, like, can I relate to that? I don't think I can. Like, not reading doesn't make me feel lonely. I get where you're coming from, though, because
I think it will be different.
You're not interacting with people about what you're reading because you're not reading. It makes complete sense.
But what was the thing? Do you feel bad? So I feel bad, but I don't blame myself for it. You know, I don't like grill myself like, oh, I must though. I need to, you know, like if I can, then I can't.
Yeah, I feel bad uploading vlogs where I have no reading content and calling it a reading vlog because I edit the footage and I think, what's the point? What's the point?
You don't call them reading vlogs, do you? Like, I know when I upload a vlog and it's not like a reading vlog, then I'll just call it something else, vlog.
True, yeah, which is where I was going with that. Like, I feel bad when I upload a reading vlog that doesn't have reading content, but did I feel bad when I uploaded that Animal Crossing vlog? No. No, I did not. I was having the time of my life, and I'm pretty sure I put that in the tweet. It was like, I haven't read anything, but I've had the best time.
And I think that's totally okay, as long as you know, like, you let people know before they click on the video what sort of content they're clicking on. If they're there to blame. We know if we're gonna upload some like random stuff, like not everyone's gonna watch it, and that's fine. Okay. Should you be gentle and understanding or search for books that pull you out of it?
I think that depends on the sort of slump you're in.
Yeah. And
like, if you're in a mental health induced slump, I think be gentle and understanding with yourself, for sure.
Sorry, just someone said I'm angry all the time.
And the icon looks angry as well.
In the words of the youth, mood. I think it just depends on what works for you as well. Like, it completely is just personal preference. Like, if you don't.
As you've already said, though, sometimes you really do just have to write it out and let it do its thing. Sometimes there is no other solution, and you're gonna have to accept that. As painful as it is.
Speaking about waiting it out, someone asked, how long are usually your how long are your slumps usually? That's a difficult question.
They vary, because I mean, I had that months-long one. Which is an extreme for me. Like, what was that, like 5 months or something, where I did nothing. And then, for example, March, where it was just 1 month. So we've gone from 5 months to 1 month. And sometimes it's just after a readathon and I just need a week to chill out. So it really does vary. And I think the variation on the length depends on the reason for the slump as well. It's all connected. It's a web of slumpiness.
Do you find you slump more after reading big books? What does that sound? Like someone's.
I don't know. For the first time in ages, I'm on a live show and my neighbor isn't having a disco in his garden.
It's like someone has like a massive hose or something. It's just like water. I don't know, weird.
I didn't know.
They're cleaning.
What was the question? I've forgotten it already.
Do you slump more after reading big books?
I don't know, because as I say, for me, it's that accomplishment. So, like, after I've read a big book, I'm like, I can accomplish anything. I can conquer the world if I wanted to. Then I read a middle grade.
How do you navigate feelings of guilt with reading? Hope you're both doing okay.
Painfully. Now.
I think friends help, just to talk some sense into you, because when you're like, oh, I feel so guilty, and they're like, why? And then you're just like,
yeah. And I mean, there is always that rational part of your brain that reminds you, like, why do you feel bad about not doing something that no one's forcing you to do? Like, no one. And the reality of it is, as people are saying in the chat, when we upload a vlog where we haven't read anything, it reminds them that we're human and makes them feel good that, other people also don't read 24/7.
Yeah. But I think it's also just helpful to hear from someone else, because you can get into like a really irrational part of your brain and just like kind of sink there.
Yeah.
And if there's someone else that can tell you like, you're being a dummy, then that's sometimes good.
For sure.
Okay. Do you have anything else on there while I read this?
I mean, probably. Do you think ASMR rooms are a good tool to help focus when you're in a reading slump?
It depends how you normally like them.
I have heartbreaking news, right? The ASMR room, or it's not even an ASMR room, but the ambient worlds thing that I listen to all the time when reading has been taken down.
Oh, which one was it?
It was Ambient World's Narnia Springtime.
Oh.
And I would always tweet, like, about to put on the Narnia soundtrack and read my book, and people would be like, yeah, Narnia. And I went to put it on, was it last night? And realised it's not there anymore. Oh. I'm so sad.
But you live, it's fine. Come on.
Fortunately, they have a Narnia winter soundtrack. It's not the same as the spring one, but like I
better.
I do like winter better, but the spring soundtrack had like the waterfall and like the trickling streams and stuff, and the winter one doesn't have that. It's like,
oh, I know when that does. I think it's of Lord of the Rings, but it's one of the cities there. I can't remember now which one it was, but it has definitely those kind of a spring fountain vibes.
That's what but I also just like the Narnia music, so I don't know if the Lord of the Rings one would do this.
I think we're losing you again. But for me, I don't particularly go for them, because especially if I'm slumping, that I kind of need the silence, because even the ASMR rooms are going to be Rivendell. That's the one. Thank you. I was completely like, I was about to see Riverdale, and I was like, that is definitely not it. And it's basically, what was I saying? Oh yeah, ASMR. It's too much for me. Oh, she just left. That's fine. This is trying to get out of the room. This is chaos currently. Like, this is trying to open the door. But yeah, I cannot do the ASMRs for when I'm slumping, because I need the total silence or just the natural sounds outside, because otherwise my brain will focus on that instead of the words, because I can't do that. I think Jade is just gonna try and come back again at some point, but oh, that's a good point. Maybe it depends on the book that you're reading as well. I do find that it's nice to try and match people. Hello.
Hello. I'm sorry.
I can't hear you. Oh, I can hear you now, but it's kind of delayed. Say something?
Hello?
Okay, that's fine now.
I'm really sorry about that. My Wi-Fi is being pants.
Hey, brothers. So it probably also just depends what you're reading. And it's also so nice to kind of try and match it. Obviously, if you're reading like medieval high fantasy or something, then you can just put this like battle music, which is also pretty cool. But normally I just listen, if I'm slumping, I'm just gonna do it in silence, because the less distractions, the better. But it could get you in like more of a mood.
Are we still on the ambient ASMR question?
Yeah, we've just kind of finished.
Okay, cool. Cool.
Oh yeah, someone said I have so much to study, and at the end of the day, when I can take a break, I can't look at any more text. And that is what I was kind of feeling when I was studying. And I think that's totally fine. Don't push it. Just reserve your energy for reading the text that you actually have to read, and then at some point when you have more time and want to read something for pleasure, then just let yourself do the stuff you need to do. What other activities do you do when you're in a reading slump? So that's maybe a good advice for like waiting it out.
Play Animal Crossing.
Oh yeah, play some things good, Sims or Animal Crossing, or
whatever you want to play.
Also a good game. Sorry if you can hear Logan. I closed the door, but Zeus managed to open it. So, and Logan's playing D&D, which is also good to play if you're slumping, because it's very much like writing your own book, but poorly.
I'm not big on watching movies, but sometimes a Ghibli movie just really.
I love TV shows.
See, I almost wish I did, but something is clearly wrong with my head, and I don't watch TV.
But I wonder if you just didn't try the one. Maybe. I mean, maybe you just tried like a contemporary thing, but I'm talking about like Expanse or Altered Carbon, or like a good sci-fi TV show.
It just doesn't interest me. Like, it doesn't excite me at all.
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know why I didn't mention it yet, but catch up on YouTube. Exactly.
Yeah. I think also catching up on YouTube and Booktube helps a lot of people out of reading slumps, because like you see other people getting excited about reading and expressing yeah. And Booktubers expose you to new books that maybe you weren't aware that you were excited about, and restart that love.
That's all the questions. I think there were quite a lot actually. So first of all, just thank you, because sometimes there's not a lot, but you gave us material, which is amazing. It makes us, allows us to be a bit lazy, but it was just a lot of them. Obviously, we already covered, so I just kind of skipped them as well. Anything on your side still?
One of the questions that we got from Gavin was, is there a book that's been your book savior that you always remember pulled you out of a big reading slump and you're still thankful to this day for that book? And I know there is for you.
Yeah, The Name of the Wind. I still haven't reread it though. I wanted to, and a couple of times I wanted to, but I never did. And I don't know how much I would love it now, but it will forever. And I still consider it like one of my favorite, if not the favorite book, because that's how I felt when I read it first time. And I think that's fine, because you're not going to reread it every year to check if it still fits. But that was what pulled me out, although I would not recommend it for a reading slump read, because it's a hella slow start. I DNF'd it once before I actually pulled through. So just gonna leave it there. And then it became like my favorite book. But once I got into it, I couldn't stop, and I was completely immersed, and I was just so invested, and I just loved it a lot. So that was a book that I'm always going to remember.
I don't think I've had one, unfortunately.
Yeah. But then you didn't have like a 5-6-year-old.
Yeah, I didn't have that massive slump. No, and the big slump I did have was no book's fault. So
yeah,
just got back in the mood.
That is a side effect of hello, Zeus.
Hello, Zeus. Meow, meow, meow.
What? Oh, cute. So there's, of course, Percy Jackson, as well as Harry Potter, if you still can. Oh, sorry, no, this is the books that people got it out of the reading slump. I completely lost my thought there. So Game of Thrones and Gone Girl, The Magicians, yeah.
I'm trying to think if there was one for me, but there really wasn't. What book got me out of my like Animal Crossing slump? Let me check.
I love the wind. Yay. Hi. Why are you
Call it slump because it wasn't really a proper slump. But what was it?
Oh, The Raven Cycle, Cinder, and Fangirl.
It was a sprinkle of sorcery. A sprinkle of sorcery got me out of my Animal Crossing slump.
The House of the Cerulean Sea?
Cerulean Sea. Yeah, that's a TJ Klune book, isn't it?
Oh.
It surprises me because of the one book we've read from him, and now suddenly everyone loves The House in the Cerulean Sea, and I feel like it's probably a very different vibe.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say, it seems very different.
Yeah.
Like, there's no blanket on you, so I won't.
Animal Crossing addiction, not a slump. Correct. Yeah.
The Mercy Thompson series. I don't know what series that is, but I'm glad.
Oh, I know. I see the Raven Cycle comment. Fabulous books.
Final Empire. That's the one you're reading.
It's my current read, yes.
Girls of Paper and Fire.
A book I will never read.
Yeah, I read it, but it was just okay for me. But we all have different tastes, and that's fine. A
Court of Thorns and Roses. How have we got this far without mentioning the book hangover that was the aftermath of friggin' Akamath?
I didn't have one though, but
oh my god! After Akamath, everything was shit.
Aww.
I mean, it was a long while ago now, and I can't remember what it was that I read after Akamath, but I remember talking about it and being like, I don't know if this book is shit or if it just doesn't compare. I don't know.
Yeah. I remember I didn't like the first one much, but I did at that time when I was reading liked Akamath, but I feel like if I read it now, I would not at all. But at the time, it was what I needed, and I valued that experience. Are you gonna come up? Sorry, Zeus is acting weird. Come on.
Zeus. Meow.
He's having a staring competition.
My door is just knocking itself. Why? The library's haunted.
But yeah.
I don't think I had any more questions that we haven't answered already.
Yeah, but I think we pretty much like covered everything. What would you guys want for us to talk about next time? I mean, we have some ideas. No, how are you doing? What are you guys reading at the moment? If you're reading.
Yeah. What are all our current reads? I'm currently reading The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. I said as one of my goals for 2020 that I would read Brandon Sanderson. And I'm now reading my second Brandon Sanderson book, so I'm good on my word.
Yes, you are. You're doing well. And I'm
100-ish pages in and enjoying it very much.
How much am I?
200, just over 200 pages.
Nice. And coincidentally, I'm also reading a book by Sanderson, but I'm not actually reading, so I'm not going to even mention it. But at some point in March, I think I stopped reading it, and here we are. It is 22nd of June.
Oh, something else we haven't spoken about is DNFing. Like,
yeah,
does DNFing help in a slump, or do we?
Yes,
I
think if you are struggling, you need to DNF that and move on, and not waste your time on something that is just not working.
I think we're both pretty strong advocates for DNFing books that you're not enjoying.
He's very cute, but he's just getting his nails into my leg. Hey, buddy. But absolutely, I think you should DNF and not feel bad about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've DNF'd some books multiple times. Like, I keep going back and starting them and then DNFing them again. And one day, I will just realize that I'm never actually going to finish this book and get rid of it. But until then, I will continue to DNF it. Unpopular opinion, it's Gemina.
Oh, right. I don't think you'll ever read it, right?
I've tried like 4 times now.
But you did as well. Like, why don't you just give up on it?
Because I don't want to unhaul it because I loved Illuminae.
Oh, but that's okay. You can just treat it as a standalone. They are very similar.
Which is why I can't read it. Like, it feels like a rip-off of itself. I don't understand.
What did you see, Mr. Longneck? Like,
here's a giraffe.
What did you see? Hello? Hello? It's just so focused. Okay.
Oh, go get that, whatever it was.
I don't know if you can see, but
oh,
it's just like at the window. It's very cute. What do you see?
Get those birdies.
Like through the gap as the window is slightly open. Very cute.
Oh.
I'm glad you are enjoying the Will of Ascension. Ooh, Kingdom of Copper. I need to read that at some point. Spellslinger, Stacey.
I really hope you're loving it.
Fallen Air. I feel like I've heard that.
Unfamiliar.
We don't have to focus on that. One time it'll actually happen, and I'll
do like a read along or something, or
no.
Oh no, because you're bad at buddy reads. Don't do that.
I know. I was supposed to buddy read it with AJ, but it just never happened, which is my fault entirely. Feel so guilty for DNFing, but why?
No, why? Yeah.
Like, I get it, but also I don't, because no matter how you got the book, if it's because you paid your money and then you feel guilty about that, you can always resell it or donate it, which obviously still sucks, but I get that guilt. But wouldn't you feel more guilty for the time lost on a book that you weren't really enjoying when you could have read something that was more fulfilling to you intellectually or just like for enjoyment's sake?
The thing that gets me with, I don't know if it's guilt or justification, like if I really, really, really hate something, I'm talking given to the sea level hate, I have to finish that because I cannot fight if I don't know that the ending didn't make it better. So like I can't mouth off about how bad it was for someone to be like, you didn't finish it, the ending was so much better. So like I have to finish it so I can be like, no, it wasn't.
So you hate
that's not quite guilt, that is hate reading and giving myself like ammunition.
Yeah. I will agree that DNFing is easier said than done sometimes, for sure, especially I think with middle books. Like I'm talking 2 to 3 stars, like 2 to low 3 stars, because for me 3 is good-ish, you know, like it's okay. I
don't think 3 stars is a bad rating. Like it's over.
Did you say you think or you don't think?
I don't think. Like 2.5 is halfway. Like 3 is better for good than bad.
Yeah, I think it's like it's all right.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree, it is easier said than done sometimes, especially with those kind of books, because you never, when you don't feel strongly for or against, then you kind of usually, you know, there's some things that keep you entertained and intrigued, and then it's worth enough, you know, but I feel like maybe establishing some type of loose rule, so maybe like around 100 pages or whatever, like adjust this to your own speed or preference. And if you feel like, oh, maybe if I am just not bothered if I stop here, and I would be completely content with it. Like, I don't care if the character dies or lives. That's one I use a lot of the time. It's like, would I care if any of these characters died? Because I am a character-driven person, but, well, a character-driven reader. But again, obviously, I would obviously adjust that if it was a plot book. So then in that case, I would be like, am I intrigued to know what's going to happen? And I feel like if you ask a couple of questions to yourself and you honestly answer no, then even if it was an okay book, or like an if kind of like not okay, but just kind of like, all right, you know, then you wouldn't lose much, no, by DNFing that and moving on.
I think another thing with it being easier said than done is if it's a book that you were really anticipating, or a book that you were looking forward to for some sort of reason or whatever. Like how I feel with Gemina, and the reason I keep trying it, because I love the first one so much. Like, I feel like I should read it and I should finish it because I should love it. And I think that makes it really difficult. Like,
Yeah. For me, the most difficult part is actually, and this is what I still sometimes have to get over with myself, and this is the bit that made DNFing things the most difficult until I kind of got used to it. I feel like the more you do it, the more you'll get used to it. Not that I do it very often, but like I would not hesitate now as much as I did previously.
Yeah.
But the thing that made it most difficult for me is because I am a fairly slow reader. So when I read 100 pages, it would feel almost like a waste to not continue, because if I like, oh, maybe I only have 150 pages left, so might as well, so I can be like, oh, I finished this book. But then I sat with myself and I was like, well, why do I care? Why do I care if people think that I finished this book? Or why do I care that I get to say that, oh, I got to finish this book? Like, it shouldn't matter, but it can easily matter in the society that we live in with the numbers and everything. But, and again, it depends, because as you said, you get a lot of satisfaction from finishing a book. So also that could be a factor.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Like, if it was a short book and I was 100 pages in and only had 100 pages left but wasn't sure, I would finish it.
But why? I'm not attacking you. I'm just like genuinely intrigued as to why. If you don't enjoy it.
The satisfaction. I mean, if I absolutely hated it, I would finish it for ammunition to say the second half was not better than the first and I'm justified in my hatred, fight me.
Mm-hmm.
If it was okay, then as I say, 3 stars is not bad for me. Like, and 100 pages isn't a lot for me. So I would finish that in, say, another night and be like, I finished it, I didn't like it, I'll now move on to something different.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that then comes down to the reading pace thing. Like, you're a slow reader.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a relatively fast reader, especially in my current climate. So like 100 pages isn't a lot to me.
Yeah.
If it was a 500-page book and I was 200 pages into it and hated it, then I would be more inclined to finish it, because then that 300 pages, I could finish another book that's only 300 pages. So
yeah,
does that make sense?
I think so. Like, for example, if it's a high fantasy with, you know, like a high adult fantasy with like small font and whatnot, 100 pages can take me up to 4 hours to read. So like, I'm not gonna sit there and spend that 4 hours on something that I'm not going to enjoy. But I also get that a bit of a, oh, well, that's a shame. I just kind of feel like I wasted the previous couple of hours that I started and read whatever much I read. So that's why my kind of level of, like, a book kind of has to grab me in the first 50 pages. And if it doesn't, I will not spend more time kind of wasting. But that is a big challenge for a book, to be honest, because that is not a lot.
That's what I was thinking. 50 pages is not a lot, and in a lot of like high fantasies, like 50 pages is still like you're just being introduced to the landscape.
Yeah, I know. And I don't like for high fantasy adult, especially if it's a big saga like the Stormlight. When I know there's tomes and tomes and tomes, I won't apply the same rule. That's also because it comes recommended by literally everyone in my life. So I also have that adjustment there that I'm just not gonna like, I will read this, or I will at least read half of it. But for YA fantasy, You get 50 pages, and I know that's harsh, but you know what? Tough titties. Like,
I think also with a lot of YA fantasies, they do tend to be only around like the 300, 400 page mark. So it then isn't as much.
And to be honest, like, I think that it's not that hard to intrigue people at the very beginning. And to me, it's not that hard to be intrigued in the very beginning, because it's the middle usually that loses my interest the most. But if they do start with an action scene, it's not a great start in my books. But I think so. That's why I think like 50 pages is fine. Like, no one's here like paying me to read it, you know. Like, I don't have an obligation to this particular book or author or anyone to read this book. If the 50 pages don't intrigue me enough to even continue to see later on if I'm gonna, you know, then that's definitely a no for me. But it's definitely taken me a while to train myself to do that, and I won't say that I succeed every time, but that is how I approach it.
Can we also discuss the benefits of a temporary DNF? Like, if you DNF a book once, that doesn't mean you can never go back to it. Like, you don't have to throw it away. You don't have to trash it. Like, if you've just got to this point where you don't want to continue, put it back on your shelf.
Yeah, and like
in a couple of months, you decide, you know what, I want to give that another go. It's still going to be there.
Exactly. I don't think I have ever DNF'd a book and gotten rid of it right after. I would probably have a year at least in between me actually realizing I don't think I will ever try this again, and then getting it to the charity shop. But if, like, I would never just get rid of it unless those 50 pages were telling enough that it's just not going to be my cup of tea, which is usually something like a YA contemporary. And in that case, if it just doesn't vibe with me, then I would just not gonna, you know, just, I know, if I know, then I know that I'll never pick it up. But it would, like, fantasies, usually I'm just like, maybe it's just like a book that I didn't have any issues with, but I just felt in the mood to read a sci-fi instead or something like that. The mood reader that I am, you know. So definitely agree, like a temporary DNF. Like, it doesn't have to be a death sentence to the book. But I think it's just like a waste of time if you keep pushing yourself when you're not in the mood for it. And that in itself can cause a reading slump.
Exactly. I'm all for temporary DNFs. And even sometimes that temporary DNF doesn't have to be very long. Like, almost what I did with The Final Empire the other day. Like, I realized I'm slacking a little bit. I'm going to read another book to bump me up. Like, I mean, I closed that book and put it back on my shelf for a couple of days. Is that a temporary DNF?
I agree with this one a lot. Especially with why you don't even need to get to page 50 to know it's a DNF.
Yeah.
That's accurate. It's also like the more you read and the more you understand what you like and what you don't like. A year ago, I had no idea that I really hate when a book starts with an action scene. Like, you learn these little things about yourself, and you notice, you know, what works for you and what doesn't, and you might be a bit better at selecting, or, you know, maybe this is actually not a book for me just from the 50 pages. I definitely, when I just started getting back to reading, I wouldn't allow myself to judge from 50 pages because I didn't know my taste enough to do that. So
I think also after a certain period of time, like when you've learnt your tastes like that, you tend to DNF things less because you curate what you read so much better because you learn what you like. Like, I haven't DNF'd a book in a while now.
I haven't read a book in a while. To be honest, I feel like in some sort of weird sense, since sometime in 2019, you think that I would be better at like picking the books I want to read, but I felt like I've been picking the books that I felt like I wanted to read because the synopsis was, or like the premise was really intriguing, and then the delivery of it just didn't fit with what I wanted from it. Which is not to say that the books that I don't like or DNF are bad books. It's just not something that I wanted to read or that fit my liking. I also want to kind of say that obviously we both are advocates for DNFing, but if it actually makes you uncomfortable to the point where you're just feeling guilty and you're doing that, like, just read it. Like, you don't have to DNF. It's just like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
See
you
what
might
makes
have that internal conflict of I want to DNF it, but I need to finish it. So therefore, you just kind of stay at the same place for ages. Like if that's going to be the case, because you can't bring yourself to DNF it, but you don't want to keep reading it.
So then you don't read at all.
Yeah.
Just DNF. But if you can't push it, and if DNFing makes you more uncomfortable than reading a book that you're not too excited about, you know, don't do it just because people like to do it.
I think also DNFing, like if you're in a readathon and there's the extra pressure and you can't DNF, like that.
I would twist my rules for that one. Like even if a rule is like you can DNF, I would DNF because like otherwise I will slump.
If the rule of a readathon tells me that I can't DNF a book, I will DNF the readathon.
Harsh.
I will, and I have.
I mean, like I feel like with all of the readathons, you can twist things to work. Like no one's checking, no one's policing. You know, you just do what feels. But like the reason I would DNF a book, even if like some readathon would say that I couldn't, it's not because I feel like other people, if like I should be able to. No, it's because like if I don't DNF, I am risking a proper slump because you know you are not supposed to be there, mister.
I don't care. What are you gonna do?
What? Go down. Go down. Just like standing there, he knows what I'm saying, but he's just saying, "Oh, I don't understand. I don't speak English." There you go. Thank you very much.
Bless him.
He's so cheeky. But that could be an interesting video, actually. Like, what are the things that would make you DNF a book? Like, what?
I don't think I could curate a list on that. Like, it would so much depend on feeling. Like,
fair.
I don't think I would have a list of specific things other than like if the book was blatantly extremely problematic, then yeah. But like outside of that, I really don't know.
Some healthy Zeus content. Yes, Zeus?
Star of the show.
Hello. Oh yeah, like too many POVs sometimes can be a bit overwhelming. Oh my god, the first person, second person is weirder for me.
I get confused. Which one's first person? First person is I, isn't it?
Yeah, second person is you, which is very rare.
Weird. Yeah.
Yeah. My third
person is like the God perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. But the third person past tense is my absolute go-to. Like that's the one that I prefer. But I found I found that recently the first person, especially in YA, is so prominent and a bit too much for me. It's just like it won't make me DNF a book, obviously, but it's just not my preferred storytelling.
Yeah, I think second person is very bizarre.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if I've ever read a book that's third person present tense, but that would also be really weird.
I think I have something, but I can't remember what it was.
I just feel like reading that would be quite uncomfortable. Bizarre.
No, I think it's just it just depends how you I think you get used to it. I'm sure there are.
Probably.
What are you doing?
That door keeps swinging. What's wrong with you? It's because the window's open.
Such a weird cat, did you know? He's on the table now. He's like, you're not giving me attention. Wild. Oh.
Sorry, my mum's texted me like 7,000 times in the last 20 minutes.
Why? She gets scared.
No, she just had some good news that she wanted to share, so she's just sent me lines and lines and lines of emojis.
That's good though. I'm happy it was good news. Oh, interesting. I never DNF'd a book before finding Booktube, but it had never occurred to me. Interesting. Yeah, I can see
Like Jade, I will read a certain really popular one so I can argue. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I will fight you that Simon versus Homo sapiens agenda is terrible.
I mean, I would disagree, but I also don't want to fight you.
Like, I won't actually like throw fists, but like.
But yeah, on that aggressive note. I think that's kind of it.
I do think we've covered a lot. Hopefully, if anyone here is slumping, which we know a lot of you are, because we asked that earlier, maybe some of this advice will be of use to you. DNF those books, read those comics. You've got this.
Yeah.
Or if it's something that cannot be changed, chill, relax. It'll pass. Well, things do.
And especially if you're like struggling, I'm sure there are other things to focus and prioritize in your health rather than like stressing more about the fact that you're not reading.
Look after yourself.
Yeah. And it'll just come when they come. So the next time we are on Jade's channel with an unknown topic yet.
Oh yeah. What do you want us to discuss next time? It's actually going to be this Friday, so we don't have much time in them this time because it's Monday.
Do it next Friday. It's up to you if you want to keep it once per week.
I don't mind. I have nothing else to do with my time.
We'll decide. I mean, I'm still working, so. But we'll decide. We'll let you know. We'll see what we can do, and we can ask you what you want to. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much for stopping by and chilling with us. I feel like it's gotten like dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we shall, I don't know how like informative this was. We're obviously no experts on anything at all.
But hopefully you had a good time.
Yeah, hopefully you had a little break from whatever you've been doing.
I disappeared for a little while.
All right, I think that's it. Cool.
Okay.
Thanks. Thanks, bye. I wanted to say thanks, guys, and bye, but
thanks, bye.
It just ended every time. Just like, thanks, bye.
It's a thing now. It's a thing.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
Oh my god.